Hello everyone, Aya here. This video is on the spinal activation technique in Qigong. So I'm going to share a little information about the major diaphragms and how you can work with your spine to create flexibility and mobility in it, which is going to give you more energy in your body. It's going to help to regulate all of your major endocrine glands and change your state of consciousness at any point. So you can do this while you're driving, you can do this before your Qigong practice. It's a really powerful way to get more self-mastery. So first, let's talk about our diaphragms. A diaphragm is a part of the body which contracts and changes the volume and the pressure of a given cavity. So you have a pelvic diaphragm, thoracic diaphragm, a throat diaphragm. You have some higher diaphragms like the upper palate. But let's talk about the abdominal cavity, the upper thoracic cavity, and then the head and throat space. What we can do when we change the pressure in those areas, energy is going to move there. Particularly the breath is going to move through the pressure differential between the external environment and the internal environment that is your lungs. So by working with the different diaphragms, we can move energy to different parts of our body. So I'm not going to give too much detail on the diaphragms because I'm going to make a whole nother video on that. But just as a little preface to really good breathing, you have a level of contraction of your pelvic and urogenital diaphragm. One of them is when you have to pee, you kind of hold that sensation back with the contraction. That's the presence of your urogenital diaphragm. And then the pelvic diaphragm forms like a big bowl. When you have these engaged, there's a little toning, there's a little tightening and pulling in and up of the anus. And then there's a whole floor for your organs. So instead of them sagging, the energy just hanging down, there's a little bit of control there. So the energy is not just leaking out, we get a nice pressure cavity there. So you think about these pelvic diaphragms being pulled in and then slightly up without too much effort or strain. The thoracic diaphragm, so this one goes underneath your ribs, and when you inhale, it moves downwards. This is why in good diaphragmatic breathing, your belly expands out because the diaphragm is moving down, which is creating space for the lungs to expand. So pelvic diaphragm pulling up, thoracic diaphragm pulling down, and then the throat diaphragm, you can think about the whole throat, particularly the bottom of the throat here. You can think about it closing in, and then this is all happening on the inhale in particular. So get a sense for this in your body. As you inhale, there's a contraction. All these diaphragms are contracting and moving in their respective domains. And then as you exhale, just allow them to relax and they'll recoil into place. And then once again, inhale, and then feel the contraction, and then exhale. Continue to practice that as best as you can with your awareness as you listen. This is really good breathing. If all these diaphragms aren't functioning proper, sometimes we have to release holdings and unprocessed emotion. Once again, that's a video for another day. Now, this breathing in the full body allows for all the spinal nerves to receive the energy of the breath. So let's move on to the spinal cord here. So our spinal cord in the 33 spinal vertebrae houses the nerves that send signals in and around the body. So some different types of nerves that I'd like to share. You have the efferent nerve pathway. So this is when you are walking around and you want to move your leg. There's a signal that goes from your brain, from the motor cortex, and it sends it through the spine, through the efferent, as in effort, movement pathway. And then it sends a signal to the respective muscles. They contract in a very articulate and beautiful way, and we get movement. Wonderful. So, next part. The afferent nerve pathway, as in affection, as in feeling. So this is when we have a sensation, say I touch my knee, there's a sensory fiber, a tactile fiber perhaps in my skin, and it's going to send a signal up my spinal cord to my brain that's telling me, hey, there's something there. Okay, so we have the efferent and the afferent pathway. So in Qigong, what we do is we learn to practice really slowly. So we move really slowly. We activate this efferent nerve pathway. but we're very mindful, more mindful than most people in their everyday life, because we're often moving so quickly that we don't pay attention to all the sensation in the body. The nervous system has, pretty well, as far as I know, an infinite capacity to feel and to feel more. So the practice slows us down so that we balance our nervous system in the doing, the actions, and also the respective feeling. So we get more mastery over a system and more awareness of what's happening in the body, and of course around the body, because the nervous system is also taking in information from all around. So with regular practice, we begin to repattern the nervous system so it's more effective and efficient. You're more connected with your feeling and not just lost or so caught up in doing. I could spend a whole video on how that changes our fundamental position and how we change our breathing, moving, and the tone of our nervous system really reorientates our entire perception in our entire life. But I want to focus a little bit more on the spine here and get to this practice. So we have these yang and yin pathways. We have this sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic is more action oriented, using energy, and then parasympathetic is more rest and digest, kind of more towards the afferent feeling side, masculine and feminine, kind of getting that polarity. So this movement is going to help to bring energy through the whole system and balance those two branches. So we're not too much in our energy using and maybe even distress, and we're not lethargic and just cultivating energy without able to use it or circulate it through the system in an effective way. The last piece is we have the nerves, we have the spinal vertebrae, and then there's a fluid called cerebral spinal fluid that's in the whole spinal cord and in various parts of the brain. And it's flowing. And we have pumps. We have a sacral pump in our sacrum and a cranial pump, and then we have another smaller pump at about T11, thoracic vertebrae 11, opposite the solar plexus. Now these pumps help to move cerebral spinal fluid. When it's flowing really good, we get more energy moving through the nervous system. We can bring more energy in the nervous system by focusing on it and by breathing. So the breath brings in charged particles. The energy from it goes to the nervous system, and where you pay attention to, where attention goes, energy flows. So when we focus on the spine, we can bring more energy to it. Now, the spine has various different nerve plexi, like larger branches of nerves coming out it in certain parts. And if you focus on them, more energy goes there. And those larger nerve branches go to major organ sites and endocrine glands. Your endocrine glands are what release hormones. So by bringing more energy into respective parts of your spine, you can better regulate, because maybe you want less stress hormones, or maybe you want more testosterone. You can better regulate the system using your breathing. And just a little side piece as well, your inhale is your sympathetic nervous system, your exhale is your parasympathetic. So the more mastery and the more breath practices you utilize, the easier it will be to regulate your nervous system without using things outside of yourself. Drugs, environments, foods, sleep, etc. You'll have a little bit more conscious control of that, and a lot more, depending on the practices and how often you do them and how effective they are. Okay, so we have the cerebral spinal fluid, we have these pumps, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and we have good proper breathing. So the movement is this. We have our knees bent, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our sacrum and move it backwards. So we're going to flare out or arch our spine. Think about your T11 or where your solar plexus is as moving forward, and then think about your cranium, so you're tucking your chin in and moving that back. And then what you're going to do is you have your hands in a T, or called a T shape, 90-degree angle. And you're going to make gentle fists, and then you're going to pull your shoulder blades together. And then you're going to gently squeeze your teeth. You're going to inhale, belly expands, using contraction of all your major diaphragms. And then that's the sympathetic, that's the yang mode, because you're activating all the parts of the yang, the inhale, the contraction, the effort, the arch of the spine. The yin is an internal rotation, so you flip the hands and then you make a curve in the spine. You tuck your chin, you curl your tailbone, and then your T11 moves back. And you relax everything. And you feel the body. So you can do this for like longer periods, or you can do it in a flowing motion, but for now let's do a few slow ones together. So we have our inhale, sacrum back, T11 forward, chin back, inhale, belly, all the diaphragm, slight contraction of the muscles and clenching of the teeth. Exhale, relax everything, curl in. You can do internal rotations of the arms and legs if you want as well. Inhale, external rotation, squeeze fists. Exhale, curl in. And then do it a few times on your own. Notice if you use too much effort of the muscles, you'll lose the sensitivity and the capacity for you to accurately move the spine. Like, be really embodied in your spine so that as best as you can, you're moving all of your 33 spinal vertebrae. You can't over effort in either direction. Don't forget to use all your diaphragms, contracting on the inhale, relaxing on the exhale. And you can continue to do it. I'll help a little guidance here. Remember to really pull in and up so that the breath, as you expand out on your inhales, pushes the belly out. And as you do that, you'll notice a change in the low back, and that'll put some pressure on the nerves, which will help to activate them. And then experiment with how much you clench your fist and squeeze them together so that you activate the back of the neck here. And you can even think about squeezing your shoulders into your neck here, like so. If this hurts your spine in any way, of course, be mindful. We're working with the body, not against the body. And the Taoists would say do it in sets of 3, so like a 9, an 18, or a 36 would generally be done. So that's the practice. Once again, a review of what we're doing, and what you may notice is the breath becomes more full and developed throughout the whole spine and throughout the whole body. So when you do this, you balance the 2 branches of the nervous system with the breath, with the activation of all the spinal nerves, by affecting the endocrine system indirectly through the spinal nerves. And then when you're using your whole body like this, you're becoming very embodied in your whole system. So you're bringing awareness to everything, and that additional energy is also going to help you to regulate your state, your mental, emotional state, and the way that your mind is functioning. So an invitation to practice this technique, and as I said, you can do it with you wherever. I do this after I get out from a drive. There's a little modulation of how you can do it while driving. It's a little different in how you move the spine. So don't do it while you're driving with the fist especially. But continue to do it throughout your day, and you can also notice where you may be holding additional tension in the spine, and this is a great way to activate the nerves in that area so that they can send the signal, because what happens with contracted muscles is there's a chronic sympathetic kind of tone to it. It's like contract, contract, contract. So as we learn to contract all of our muscles with the sympathetic and use the whole nervous system, and then relax all of them, we're better able to have the self-mastery to know how to relax parts of our body that we may have not had the mind-body awareness to do before. So I hope this video was useful for you. Once again, let me know if you have any comments or additional pieces that you would like me to expand on in this technique. Thank you for watching. I am Om.